Hi, all. I know that some of you have already started to work on the vocabulary game. As you know, it's one of the major assignments of the course, but I wanted to make some clarifications, go over it with you, and most importantly, make sure that we watch Kate Garnett, who invented the game and has been playing it with her students for the last 30 years probably. I would have to say it's one of the huge highlights of this course. I find that every semester that I teach 771, most people go into creating the game skeptically because it does take some work. But then when they actually see their students play it, uh, they're sold on it. It's a fairly easy game to create, and it doesn't really don't think of it only as a vocabulary game because you could really use it to teach concepts, review before an exam, introduce a unit. It's really quite dynamic. So I hope that it's not causing you too much anxiety. It shouldn't be. It should be something that you remember. It's not due until October 21st. So as you can see here, that's the actual due date. Um, and I wanted to just go over with you the directions for the vocabulary game and emphasize that I'm not actually expecting you for this group to have time to play it with your students. I understand that you just don't have that kind of time in the semester. Many of you are in a co-teaching situation where it would be difficult to fit in a lesson like this one. But if you find that you can play this vocabulary game with your tutee, or you find that you're in a classroom and you can actually play it, but you don't think you'll be able to do it by October 21st, then do write me and we can just make it due a little bit later for you. That way you have time to actually play the game and do the write-up. So if you find that you're not going to have time to play it with your students or you don't have access, that kind of flexible access to students, then there is no need to actually play it. So your reflection would emphasize the creation of the game, like the process that you went through in creating it, um, and what you think students might be able to do with it, but I'm not actually expecting you to reflect on how playing the game actually went. Obviously, it would be more rich, but I'm really not taking off points. I'm not expecting that. It's not even on. I've adjusted the rubric, so just keep that in mind that if you don't have time to play it, it's perfectly fine. So I wanted to go over the directions for the vocabulary game because I find that this is where I was getting some questions. So it should be about one page, a one-page rationale about the importance of vocabulary instruction, and you do have at least 4 different articles on vocabulary, 3 of which you are reading for this week. And there is the PowerPoint on vocabulary, which I'm going to create a separate video for. So you have plenty of resources to pull from directly from this course. So I'm asking you to consider them and do a one-page rationale. And of course, consider discussing the use of game playing and repetition of selected words, in addition to the importance of vocabulary instruction. Typed plan of game pieces, which you can do in the template, which we will go to right now. I actually wanted to go to the actual template. So you see here, these are the target cards, and these are the family cards for each of those target cards. So I'll go through this more slowly, but I also wanted to show you the actual template, and you can find that in our classroom. So if you go here into the game outline, this is where you should be creating the actual template of the game. So here you would put in the 5 or 10 target cards, 5 to 10 target cards that you're going to be working with. And remember that for each target card, you are creating, I would say, at least four, a minimum of four, probably my goal would be 6 to 8 family cards. So if you have one target card and the target card is Galaxy, for example, and I'm going to do it here. So if your target card is Galaxy, then you would have a family card that would have the definition of a galaxy. You would have a picture of perhaps the Milky Way galaxy because that's what you want them to concentrate on. And then you would have family cards. So you would have a sentence where you've left out the word galaxy. So you could say elliptical is just one type of blank, right? So an elliptical is one type of galaxy. Then for the fourth one, you could have a non-example of a galaxy. So perhaps a planet, because that in itself is not a galaxy. And for the fifth card, I would probably have another picture of galaxy. And here in family card number 6, I would perhaps give students the different types of galaxies, and they would have to choose that all of these are, in fact, different forms of a galaxy. So different forms of galaxies. So that I can think of at least 6 family cards for my one target card, which is galaxy. And it's important that they have a definition of it. But I would emphasize that they would have a working definition. So a definition that is user friendly, not a definition directly coming from the dictionary. And it's important as they play the game that they go through all of these cards and that they actually read the sentence. So they read the sentence that has the definition, that they read the sentence that you've left out blanks, because part of the exercise is to make sure that they're saying it out loud because it's helping with memorization and learning the material. So this is the template that you'll use. And again, so for each target card, you have from, I would say, a minimum of 4 to a maximum of 8 family cards. So if you have terms that are very complex, then you probably do want to have 8 family cards. And for terms that are less complex, you might have fewer family cards. So as I said, this is the entire outline, and this is where you should be typing in your words that you've chosen depending on what unit you're teaching or what content area you teach. And here I wanted to show you an image of the game pieces. So again, these right here across are my target cards. Your target card always has to be the same color. So all the target cards are pink or yellow or blue, but they all have to be that one color. And then my family cards, in this case, I just use lined index cards for my family cards. And you see each of them includes a picture. And in these, I used I am sentences, so which is one of the ones I didn't mention before. So I am part of the solar system, and I sit, the sun sits on the edge of me. What am I? And so that would be my family card for the Milky Way galaxy. So, and then I would have other family cards. So here, the target card is fertile, and you have all of the family cards that would help the student. These are clues for the student to get at the target card, and pictures with all of them. The more complicated the term, the more pictures I would include as part of my family cards. Then I wanted to make sure that everyone understood the directions for the vocabulary game itself. So as I said, a one pager of research, the typed plan of game pieces, which is the template that I've just shown you. And then when it says here, final game pieces typed or written on index cards or card stock. You'll make them for your game, but submit them using a picture. So obviously this is online. You can't physically bring them into me in class. So I'm expecting you to take pictures. You can line up a desk the way that you saw in the sample picture that I just showed you, and take pictures of all of your target words and your family cards. And then a written report with the expectations for that right here. So if you see here, the write-up is no more than one to 2 pages, single spaced. So you're addressing the following. You're describing the students with whom you could potentially work and how many times you played the game or could play this game, and include informational items such as ages, grade, number of students that you normally interact with, type of setting, language proficiency, are they emergent bilinguals, cultural factors, and the language background. So as much information about the students that you're currently working with as you can. And then I'd like you to elucidate. So why did you choose the words you did for your game? Perhaps they're part of a unit that you are planning on teaching, or a unit you just taught and realized that you could have created a vocabulary game around that unit. And then, importantly, how did you tailor the cards to suit these particular students, taking into consideration cultural differences, differences in use of language, and differences in language development? So I always like to think of these as another super important access point to materials, because kids love games. And this is a game that's easy for them to play, and you'll see that they're exceedingly competitive. And I think that we have to take into consideration where they are developmentally when we teach them, and the language level. So if you've created the game for your specific population, have you considered if you're working with students that are at a second grade level but are in high school, then make sure that you just mention that your particular students have a second grade or third grade reading level, so that your cards and your family cards are contingent with that, right? You've taken that into consideration, and therefore the sentences are not overly complex, and their readability is at a second or third grade reading level. And then offer any questions or comments you have on this learning activity, including insights into teaching vocabulary. And that's it. So it's a really short paper. As I said, 1 to 2 pages. I'm sorry, this should actually be 2 pages. So it's 1 to 2 pages of the write-up itself. Now, for those of you that are actually going to have the possibility of playing the game and reflecting on how it went, then of course I'm expecting it to be a little longer. As I said, the game pieces, you have to have 5 to 10 target cards. They have to be visually distinct from family cards. So what I've always done is another size. Sometimes, not in the example that I just showed you, but when I have time, I've done them with another size and another color. And then I've also scaffolded, depending on the students that I've worked with. So if I'm working on a word like galaxy, but with students that have a first grade or a second grade reading level, what I would do is that, let's say I have galaxy and I have nebula as part of a science unit. So what I would do is that I would have my target card is going to be pink. All of my target cards are going to be pink. So I have a pink target card for Nebula. I have a pink target card for Galaxy. I have a pink target card for Universe, right? These are all my target cards. And then my family cards, one way I've scaffolded them is that I would have all of my family cards for Galaxy be light blue, and all of my family cards for Universe be lime green. So at first, students won't catch on, right? That, oh, wait, so all of the green cards are Universe, or all of the, so, but it's a way of helping students that are just completely lost, so that at least they know that they're headed in the right direction. That if they've chosen a target card which is Universe, they and they get and there's a lime green card on the table, that at least they know that those two belong together. So it's one way I've scaffolded that has worked really well. Again, that's only necessary for groups that are really struggling readers. Um, so examples here, just things that I've um, wanted to remind you of. Uh, Make sure that you have examples that clarify, so things that really make the target card um, easier for students to really, really understand. I would always, like I said, as a part of my family cards, I would always have pictures and illustrations. It can be clip art, they can be hand drawn. Of course, I don't always do that. Most of the time, I just use clip art, or I print things out from the internet, of course. Um, I sometimes I include synonyms, antonyms, other word relationships. So again, you have here the entire the directions for um, for the vocabulary game, along with the game pieces and the write-up. Now, what I wanted to show you as well as part of this video is that I wanted to make sure that you know that in last week's vocabulary presentation, which I've asked you to revisit this week, there is a video of Kate Garnett playing the game. And she explains exactly what the rules of the game are in the way that she's done it. So I will tell you that the way that I've played this game is that I will set up the target cards and on the table, and then I actually take all of the family cards and I shuffle them around like you would a deck. So if I'm playing with just one student, that student would pick up um, one of the cards that I would have here from my family card deck. So let's say he picks up a family card, and in that family card it says, um, the sun, is part of what, and it's a blank, right? The sun is part of A, and then they know that that family card goes with the target card Galaxy. So now this student takes the target card from the table and places the family card underneath it, and they have it. Now they have the target card on top so that everyone can continue to see that as part of the game, and the family card on the bottom. Then we have then I would play with the student and take from the deck a family card, and so on and so forth. As you play with more players, it gets a little bit more complicated, and that's why I haven't asked you to actually play with students first. I would suggest that you make the deck and that you figure out your rules around playing the game first before playing it with students. That's why I haven't asked you to necessarily play. If you feel comfortable enough to do so with your students and you've created some rules, that's wonderful. But do know that Kate Garnett goes in this video. She does go through the thinking around the creation for the game, the necessity for vocabulary games in general, and also the instructions of how to play the game. So again, I hope this was helpful. Do know that the vocabulary game is not due until October 21st. Also know that you are not required to play with students, so it does not have to be part of the reflection. If it is, that's wonderful, but I won't penalize you if you haven't been able to do that. And if there are any questions around the vocabulary game assignment whatsoever, make sure that you text me or email me. As you know, texting is much more efficient, and I'll make sure to get back to you. Thanks.